Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Let's do it. What's the most unexplainable or supernatural experience you've ever had? Please remember to like, share, hype, listen and ask for shoutouts, and subscribe. I had a dream that my childhood dog was coming up the driveway from my house as I was walking down to get home. He looked so young and happy and had this glow to him, and I bent down and told him hi and gave him some love, and then I walked home. The next morning I had a gut feeling about that dream. When I got to work, my mom texted me and told me that he had passed away the night before. It was like he was telling me bye. I'll never forget that. I know this was a dream, but it stayed with me my entire life. I was 17 and my friend, 19 male, was dying of cystic fibrosis. He had had a double lung transplant 2 years earlier, and his lungs were rejecting. He was in the hospital actively dying. That night I dreamed I was sitting alone in a crowded room crying, and no one seemed to care. Finally, a hand touched my shoulder, and someone asked what was wrong. I said my friend was dying, and it wasn't fair because he was so young, and he had just gotten his chance at life with the lung transplant. The person made a noise only my friend could make and said, "Don't worry about me, Name. I'll be alright now." I looked up and it was my friend. We hugged. The dream ended. I woke up and went to school like normal, convinced he was going to make it. My mom called me during after-school theater practice. My friend had died at about 3 a.m. She hadn't wanted to tell me before school. I, to this day, fully believe my friend came to tell me it was okay before he went. I still miss him. My mom died in a hotel room after a family wedding. I was in the next room. For some reason, I became very anxious and sweaty as I was trying to sleep, getting worse over approximately 2 hours. Then suddenly I fell right off to sleep. My fitness tracking watch shows my heart rate going higher and suddenly dropping off to a normal RHR. When I found her the next morning and the medical examiner came, the estimated time of death was basically the same time that my heart rate dropped off and I fell asleep. I can't fully explain the anxiety feeling, but it was intense and seemingly out of nowhere. I was walking our dog in local woods with my 18-year-old son. We walked down a track. The grass and bushes on either side of the track was around 2 feet tall. The dog was sniffing around. I was walking in front and saw a figure on the track. It was around 18 inches tall, dark hair, fur, tatty rags. I quite honestly didn't know what I was looking at. It was human-like. I didn't say a word and it quickly ran towards its left into the tall grass or bushes. Then I heard one very startled 18-year-old say, "What the was that?" We still often mention it. He's 34 now, and still get goosebumps thinking about it. Not saying it was supernatural. A friend has said it must have been a member of woodland fairy folk. Okay, so I'm at my high school sports field at night with a buddy. This was circa 1983. We're talking along, and we see what looks to be a pretty balloon hovering near the stands. We walk over and it's just hovering there and not moving, about 20 feet in the air. We decide to throw rocks at it. Upon hitting it, we hear a metallic clink. What the we think, as we look at each other with bewilderment. It then starts floating away slowly. It made its way across the playground, staying at the same height. When it got to some trees, it levitated and flew up and over the trees and away. I see my friend every few years and bring it up. He gets mad because he wants to forget about it. Weird. I was flying somewhere over Alberta, Canada, when the person next to me in the window seat pointed out a strange object flying in the distance. It was circular and white and had what appeared to be 3 or 4 engines pointing downward and rotating round the object. However, the flames from the engines were jet black. It disappeared behind the wing and never reappeared. I asked the pilot as I got off the plane, and he had no idea what I was talking about. I got obsessed for a few weeks looking at all kinds of pictures of aircraft, drones, weather balloons, etc. Absolutely nothing came close to what I saw. Not saying it was aliens or anything, but I saw something very, very strange. Me and about 6 other people, so I wasn't imagining it. My grandma and her brother, who lived across the country, hadn't spoken in over 2 decades. Then one day she gets a wild hair up her ass to just call him and make things right and reconnect with him. She picks up a landline and dials his number and puts the phone to her ear, and there's nothing. No ringing, no busy signal, nothing. So she says, "Hello?" And then her brother responds, "Hello?" After nearly 25 years of not speaking, they had called each other at the exact same time, which is weird enough. But then the brother died within 12 hours of that phone call. I have a very strong memory of swinging with my birth mom at my school during daycare. I was around 5. The thing is, my birth mom died when I was 3. She couldn't possibly have been there. I don't believe in religion or the afterlife, and I tend to think that it was just a grieving child with an overactive imagination that wanted her mother and imagined her there. But that was such a strangely vivid memory that I can't quite shake it off. I also told my adopted mother, my maternal aunt, and my grandma that she had been there because it had been a while since I had seen her, and I was excited that I finally got to see her again, which apparently creeped them out a bit too. I don't know what I saw that day, maybe a ghost or maybe just a very realistic imaginary friend, but the fact that I don't know still makes me wonder sometimes. I was working in a group home with 5 aggressive, developmentally disabled men. It was about 2 to 3 in the morning, and I'm in the kitchen cooking. I thought I'd heard something in the dining room, so I turned and looked, watched for one of the residents to come in. Instead, I just felt this presence that filled the room. It felt as if it walked by me and pushed me aside as it walked through the kitchen and into the den in the back. There was lots of crazy bad energy in that house, so I can see why and how this happened. I've never seen anything or felt anything like it before or after this incident. Took my breath away, though, that's for sure. My grandma ended up in the hospital when I was 15 due to an ulcer that exploded in her bowels. She had multiple heart attacks and was put in a medically induced coma to try and get her to heal. We rushed to the city she lived in so that my mom could be by her side of the hospital. We got a call around 1 a.m. saying that she wasn't doing well. My mom and my grandpa left to go see her again, and I stayed at my grandma's house. I watched a bit of TV and finally decided to go back to bed at 2 a.m. As I was about to drift off to sleep, I saw my grandma walk into the room and wave goodbye to me. She looked so happy and healthy. My mom woke me not even an hour later to tell me my grandma had passed away. Right at the time, I had seen her come into the room and say goodbye. I'm autistic, and when I was about 9 years old, I was just starting to get bullied. It was summer, and my diabetic aunt was starting to become too ill to stay at home by herself. She was going blind and had a pacemaker. So my grandma and I were charged with babysitting her. I spent all summer doing that every day. She was pretty cool, and we got real close, mostly because my friends were shit. She was always there to listen. Around Thanksgiving, she was hospitalized. She was in the ICU, intubated with kidney failure. I honestly thought she was coming home, though. We visited her often, and on Thanksgiving, we brought her a plate of food. I think I went along, but I have no memory of it. That night, I woke up screaming that she died. I had a vivid dream that she was in the hospital bed. She flatlined, and I floated up to the ceiling with her, looking down on my uncle, who was at her bedside. She was covered in rainbows, had rainbow wings, and wore a dress with little white daisies on it. My mom told me I just had a bad dream and to go back to sleep. My aunt was fine. It was 4 a.m. I woke up at my usual time to a phone call. My aunt died at 4 a.m. She was buried in a nightgown with little white daisies on it. Best I can figure out is that it's all a coincidence, or she died in front of me and I repressed the memory. I did regress and ended up carrying around a stuffed animal she bought me all the time. I ended up refusing to go to school as well. I was very psychologically impacted by this, and for 3 or 4 years became very religious. For a while, we all said my aunt's first house she ever bought was haunted. We would hear people call our names when nobody was there, see shadows dart across the dark hallways, stuff of that like. When my niece was about 3 to 4, she came out of the playroom one day and said, "You know, you guys have a ghost, right?" She said his name was Pepper, and it's because his face was red like a pepper. This freaked my mom and aunt out, so my mom got some sage and smudged the place. Not more than a few minutes later, the screen door opened by itself, not once, but twice. Now, this could all be coincidental, but here's the kicker. My aunt did a little research later, and she found out that there used to be a hospital for burn victims on the land, way back in the day. Could have been how Pepper got his red face. This is a pretty good collection of stories that aren't just straight supernatural, speculative stories, but some things with, real life things. So I enjoyed this, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of them. Heading into the holiday season. It's cold out here in New York today, so I hope you guys are warm and cozy wherever you may be. So talk to you soon. My childhood home was a bi-level house, and the basement was where our TV and Nintendo were. At the bottom of the stairs, before you go into the area, was the laundry room. My mom didn't like for us to wake up early and go down and play video games on Saturday mornings because we were too loud. One morning, we snuck downstairs to try and play video games, but as soon as we got down there, we could see my mom in the dryer, like bent over grabbing clothes, so we hurried back upstairs to see my mom still sleeping in her bed. To this day, we have no explanation. Around 8 days before 9/11, a close relative of mine kept having these dreams about planes going into towers. He described who was behind it, the land they came from, and what will happen next when war broke out. The poor lad was losing sleep, and my mother said to him, "Go to a doctor and get some sleeping pills." It turns out the doctor asked him why he wanted sleeping pills and had described 9/11 to a T. He described the planes crashing into the towers, the deaths of many, Osama bin Laden in the mountain region, and even said if the war breaks out, you won't be able to get to him. Anyways, turns out the doctor was shocked, but she kept notes and, let's say, had become the talk of the town about this premonition. Back in 93, when I was in my teens, I was sick with the flu one night. I insisted Mom to go to this concert with her friends. She rarely went out, and this was her annual social activity, planned months in advance. I was old enough to take care of medicine and go to sleep all by myself. It was just a flu. I suddenly woke up screaming at 3:02 a.m. She wasn't home, which is downright impossible with me sick and alone. Our entire family was the two of us. I was kind of her entire world, and she was mine. I couldn't go back to sleep, and sat waiting for the call. Around 6, the phone rang. It was one of her friends attending the concert. I asked if my mom was dead, then if she would die, and hung up after that. Later on, I learned they'd been in a big car crash at exactly 3:02. 1 dead, 2 in a coma. Mom was hospitalized with 12 broken ribs. I just felt that. What woke me up was chest pain and Mom's voice, not my own scream. I still do not believe in anything supernatural. This wasn't a miracle or anything. Maybe some level of leftover connection due to sharing everything in the same body for 40 weeks. Backpacking with wife in the desert with a full moon. The wind was rustling and the sand stopped, deathly quiet. The kind of quiet that makes the hair rise up and your brain says, "Oh man, shit gonna go down." Fight or flight stuff. Several desert foxes materialized by our tent and stayed around us. Super creepy, and it gave us the heebie-jeebies. Freaked my wife out, and I had to stay up all night. Yeah. When they were gone, there were no tracks in the rocks or sand. I thought it was wicked cool. Yep, we left. My husband and I bought this old house a few years ago. It was cute, old and traditional, and the previous owner left some furniture, and I didn't mind it. I actually liked it. And plus, I didn't believe in haunted things. Things started subtly. Doors would slowly creak shut after we left the room, but obviously it's an old house, and you'd hear faint whispers when no one else was home. Again, my reason, it's an old house. Then a piano. I play piano, that's why I repair that. But sometimes late at night a single low C key would press down in the living room. It was loud enough to wake us up, like a fucking ringing in my ears. We had a priest come and bless the house, and he said there was a heavy presence. That night the piano key pressed, but this time it was followed by the sound of a chair scraping across the hardwood floor. I was like, that's it. We sold the house 6 months later for way less than we paid. There's a long stretch of road my dad and I take to and from work every day. One winter night, we saw a pickup driving slow in front of us about 50 miles away. It went over the top of a hill in the road, and when we went over it, it was gone. There's nowhere to turn off the road. It's all fenced off grass. It just disappeared. We were doing a family barbecue when I was around 9 years old. Dusk came, and 3 black triangles appeared far above in the sky. They stopped moving entirely for like 5 minutes, and then took off hella fast. No sound or anything. When my grandpa passed away, our power went out because of a thunderstorm, so we had a candle burning in the room. As he took his last breath, the candle went out. I've had many supernatural experiences, but my favorite is about one of my tattoos. My grandfather was a larger-than-life person. He was the family storyteller, a baker, a folk artist, a fisherman. He lived a very full life, coming from the gutters to have a 52-year marriage, 5 kids, and a dozen grandkids. When his kidneys failed, and we knew he wouldn't be around much longer, we all stopped day-to-day life and stayed by him. We wanted there to be just a few more stories. When he passed, we were all devastated. I read at his funeral. He was interred with military honors as he'd been in the Navy during the Korean War. A few weeks after his funeral, I had a dream. My grandfather had a tattoo of a sea dog in the dream. He talked to me about getting myself another tattoo. I had one already. In my dream, he took me to a tattoo shop and told the tattooist, I'll do it. We had a beautiful conversation while he tattooed me on my right wrist. I woke up with tears flowing. I saved up some money, and while I was able, I got that tattoo I dreamt. My original artist canceled on me, and the one who was available shared the exact same initials as my grandfather. He was able to match my dream exactly as I described it. It was my birthday weekend and felt like a final gift from him. Afterwards, I called my younger cousin and told her I got a tattoo for special grandpa name, and I told her about my dream. She gasped and said, "You had a dream too?" and proceeded to tell me about her own dream, where our grandfather tattooed something very similar on her right shoulder blade. She then told me her eldest brother had a dream too. We had all gotten the tattoos that weekend without knowing about each other's dreams. All the tattoos had naval themes, and each has a special uniqueness to the grandchild it's on. I know he's always hanging out watching over us. I miss him every single day. I got 2. I drove to a job which was 1.5 hours away on the way home, same route, etc. Drove away from the job, went through a wooded alley, and next thing you know, we were 20 minutes away from home pulling off the highway. I looked at my passenger, and he looked back with the same bewildered look as me. Mileage and time were all correct. We both don't remember getting on the highway or even near the highway or driving on it. We just know we drove through the woods. Then, next thing you know, we were on an exit ramp. Second one, I was driving with a friend to meet my husband and mom around 1:30 a.m. We got to the top of a big hill with woods on the left. The whole sky was black, no clouds, no stars, nothing. It was the blackest black I've ever seen. Then above the trees on the left there were 3 red lights, but not a normal light. I can't even describe it. It wasn't a beam, just bright red without illumination. elsewhere. Then suddenly it was gone. We both looked at each other and were like, "Did you just see that?" I still look up every time I pass that section of woods on top of the hill. This is in the country, so there literally was nothing around except for a village below the hill and fields and woods. I actually just shared this on another subreddit where someone had a similar question, and I shared this in more detail a long time ago on Reddit. A couple of years ago, for a period, my wife and I experienced strange phenomenons in our house. It started when our daughter of a friend was staying over, and we heard a distinctive knock on our bedroom door. That happened a few more times over a period. There was also the moment that I thought my wife was in the other room. I asked her a question and she responded, only to moments later walk downstairs and she was sitting at the kitchen table. Hadn't been upstairs at all. And there was the time I was walking toward our house and I could see my wife's sister enter through the front door. As I am inside and put my stuff down, my wife and her sister enter a few minutes after me. I did not know she was visiting us that day, and she was wearing the same clothes I had seen her wear as she entered our house. Neither of us are religious or believe in the paranormal, but it came to a point where I was seriously considering contacting a paranormal investigator. One time in the house I grew up in, I was watching a movie and fooling around with my girlfriend at the time in the basement. Parents were hours away for the weekend with my little brother at a hockey tournament. All of a sudden we hear heavy boot steps upstairs, walking from one end of the house to the other. Girlfriend confirmed she heard it too by immediately asking, "Who's home?" No one had pulled up in the driveway, and my parents always came in the big old side door that made a lot of noise when opened. No one had come in that way. Freaked out, I grabbed a knife and searched the whole house. All doors still locked, all windows closed and locked, nothing disturbed, no traces of anyone, no one else was home, so what did we hear? It wasn't the only creepy thing that happened in that house, but definitely one of the more memorable. After attempting suicide and surviving, I decided to go to the emergencies to get help. After doing a lot of tests to make sure that I didn't do any permanent damage, I'm sent to a post-emergency mental health hospital. My status as a patient is pretty unique because I'm coming myself. I can leave if I ask to, and I tell the doctors that I don't want to take any medications until I had a proper diagnosis. I think it's an important point because I wasn't under the influence of any drugs. There are only a few patients here, waiting to be transferred somewhere else. All of them are here for different reasons, but one of them is very peculiar. He's an old man who believes that he's God. Other patients mostly ignore him because he's always rambling about religion and he lacks some teeth, so it's hard to understand what he says. But I like to understand why the other patients are here, and so I listen to his stories. He's actually pretty knowledgeable about the Bible, even though he claims that it's not a very accurate book and that it's misunderstood. According to him, he somehow lost his powers and is trapped in a human existence. He believes that the world is going to shit, and that he will fix everything once he manages to get his powers back. He's really sad to be stuck here because he actually wants to help us. So he has this little ritual. Every morning, he waits for the sun to come up, and when it does, he closes his eyes, goes on his knees, and bathes in the sun. According to him, he needs to get his light back from the sun so that he can return to the sky and become God again. One day, we're just the two of us in the break room watching TV. He's rambling again. I barely understand anything because of the lack of teeth. He's quite depressed because it's a very cloudy winter day and he can't see the sun today. He talks to me, but he never really looks at me, just watching the news on TV. He complains about the state of the world, how he wishes he could bring justice to it. He wants to help those who do good and to punish those who do bad. I'm very lost at this point in my life and I really hated myself, so I ask him, "Which one am I?" Then he turns toward me and he looks like someone completely different. He's looking at me and doesn't care about the TV anymore. Behind him there's a window, and at that very moment he starts speaking to me. The sun becomes visible. The lighting is so perfect that he now has a halo of light behind his head. He looks like a completely different person. like an angel painting. And he simply tells me with perfect pronunciation, "You are good." At the exact moment he stops speaking, the sun hides behind the clouds. I didn't see the sun again that day. He then continued to watch TV as if nothing happened. I know this doesn't sound like much, but everything felt very surreal for a very split moment. It really felt like God or one of his angels was speaking directly to me. I'm agnostic, never cared much for religion. I don't really believe in the supernatural, and honestly, everything here can be explained by mere coincidences. Someone just understanding that I'm in pain while the sun had perfect timing, but everything was so perfect. He told me exactly what I needed to hear. The lighting was the perfect angle, and I swear that he looked like a totally different person. I want to believe that he's right, that there is a God or something we don't understand that actually wants to help us, that maybe it was him, or that it spoke through him, but it really helped me with my life.